Welcome to On the Same Page for Maseches Brachos. I look forward to being your chavrusa. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or comments regarding what we learned together. Maseches Brachos is the first Masechta in Shas, in the Talmud, and it deals with many relevant subjects, such as the laws of Brachos, all kinds of Brachos, Brachos on food, Brachos on seeing things, hearing things, deals with relatedly brachos that we say in davening, in tefillah, and other aspects. Once it's talking about the other laws relating to tefillah, it deals with the laws of benching, of the brachos of Birkas HaMazon, as well as mezuman that relates to that. It has a section actually about dreams, and the beginning of the Masechta, there's many other topics, of course. The beginning of the Masechta, though, talks about the laws of Kriyas Shema, of reciting the Shema. Now, the Rambam discusses in his introduction to Seder Zrayim, to the first section of the Mishnah, why, first of all, Zrayim is the first section, and why Brachos is the first Masechta in Seder Zrayim. So Seder Zrayim deals with all the agricultural laws, all the laws relating to planting, and tithing, and things of that nature. And the Rambam, in his introduction, explains that the Mishnah begins with Zrayim, with laws relating to these topics, because, as he says, that's where a person's sustenance comes from, and that's what gives us life. And since you can't live without eating, so then you won't be able to serve Hashem. So the beginning of serving Hashem really is eating, is taking care of yourself so that you can do that. And therefore, the first step is to know how you eat. How do you eat? How do you grow food so that you can eat? And within that topic, in order to eat, he says, you have to say brachos. You have to know what bracha to make on the food. So you have to know how to prepare yourself for eating, which is by making a bracha. And so, therefore, before we talk about all the laws relating to planting and growing your food, you first have to know how to eat your food, how you prepare your food by making a bracha. And once we're talking about brachos on food, then we're going to talk about brachos on other things, including brachos on mitzvos. And the mitzvah that we do every day, and we have a bracha before it, is the mitzvah of Shema. And there are brachos that we make before Shema. But you wouldn't talk about the brachos of Shema before talking about Shema, and therefore, says the Rambam, that's why the entire Shas, the entire Mishnah begins with the halachos of Shema, and it's because Zrayim has to begin with brachos, and within brachos are brachos on mitzvos, and the mitzvah we do every day is the mitzvah of Shema, and we have to talk about Shema before we talk about the brachos. That's what the Rambam says. Now, Rabbeinu Yishaya, one of the other Rishonim, suggests a different reason for beginning with Shema. Very straightforward. He says, the pasuk says, Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of heaven. And so as we embark on attaining wisdom through learning Shas, through learning Mishnah and Gemara, so we need Yiras Hashem, you need fear of heaven. And that's achieved through recognizing the oneness of Hashem, which we do through saying the Shema, and accepting the yoke of heaven upon us, so everything is manifested from Hashem, everything comes from Hashem, and therefore everything goes back to Him, so to speak. Everything is there to give Him honor, and that is the idea of accepting the yoke of heaven upon us, of dedicating ourselves and everything we have to Hashem, through the recitation of Shema and the recognition of the oneness of Hashem. And therefore we begin all of Shas with the laws of Shema, because Shema is where it starts. Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Hashem. Okay, so now let us begin with the first Mishnah. Brachos Beis Amar Aleph 2a, says the Mishnah, Me'emosai Korin Shema Be'arvin. From when may one recite the Shema in the evening? Now it jumps right in, and the Gemara is going to kind of ask, what you're jumping in. What are you coming off of that you say from, who said anything about saying the Shema? Who said you say the Shema in the evening? But that's the Mishnah's opening question. From when do we say the Shema in the evening? And the answer, the Mishnah says, Mishasha Kohanim Nechnasim Lechol B'Trumasan. From the time that the Kohanim enter to eat from their Truma. Truma is what we separate from our produce to give to the Kohanim. Only Kohanim are allowed to eat them. But a Kohen cannot eat Truma when he is Tameh. And when he's ritually impure. And the process, depending on the type of tumah, the type of impurity, may have a different process for purification, but there's a type of tumah, there are many types of tumah actually, that are purified through ha'arev shemesh. Well, first the Kohen would go to the mikvah during the daytime, but even though they went to the mikvah and immersed themselves, they're not yet pure, they're not pure until the evening, until ha'arev shemesh, until the setting of the sun. After the sun sets and the stars come out, that's when the Kohen can now eat truma. Truma, they would not be allowed to eat when they're impure, but if they purified themselves by going to the mikvah and then they had ha'arev shemesh and then the sun set and it's now dark outside, it's tzeis ha'kochavim, the stars have come out, so then they can eat from their truma. And it's that time, that same time, tzeis ha'kochavim, when the stars come out, when they can eat from the truma, that's when you're allowed to say Kriya Shema. That's when you can now fulfill the mitzvah of saying Shema in the evening. Okay. And continues the Mishnah and explains when is the latest time you can say it. Ad sofa shmura harishon, until the end of the first watch. So the Gemara later is going to explain to us that the night is divided into different watches. The night is divided into 3 watches, and therefore, and it's at the end of the first watch that you're allowed. Until then, are you allowed to recite the Shema? The end of the first watch would be 4 hours into the 4 halachic hours into the evening. So we would take the evening and the night. We take the night, the dark time hours, nighttime hours, 12, and divide into 12 components. And in this case, we really need a third of that. So 4 hours into the night would be the latest time, because until the end of the first watch, that's 1/3 into the night, which is 4 halachic hours into the night. That's when you are now. That's when a person must say Shema by, according to Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. And why would it end then? So the pasuk says in Shema, we say that you should v'dibarta, you should speak of these words. And one of the things it says, b'shach b'cha uvkumecha, when you lie down and when you get up. So what is when you lie down? So it's the nighttime. But how much of the nighttime? So Rabbi Eliezer says that it means the time when people are going to lie down, which is the first third of the night. And so you have the first third of the night to say the Shema, and after that you've missed your chance to fulfill the mitzvah of saying the Shema according to Rabbi Eliezer. The Chacham say you have until Chatzos, halfway through the night. So 6 halachic hours, halfway through the night, as opposed to 1/3 into the night. You have until halfway through the night to say Shema. Rabbi Gamliel Omer ad sheyala amod hashachar. Rabbi Gamliel says you have until dawn. You have all night to say Shema, because all night is sleeping time. Meaning it seems Rabbi Eliezer understood that you have to say the Shema at the time that you go to sleep. But Rabbi Gamliel is saying you have all night. He's saying it's at the time that you sleep, b'shach b'cha, when you're sleeping, when you're lying down, which is all night long. And the Chachamim, who said until midnight, until Chatzos, so that still needs explanation. What is their understanding of b'shach b'cha? Now the Mishnah continues and it says, Ma'aseh bo bana mi beis hamishta. One time, the sons of Rabbi Gamliel, came home from a beis hamishta, from a party, a wedding. Amr lo krina Shema. They said, we haven't said Shema yet, and it was past midnight, it was past Chatzos. So Amr lahem, he said to them, Imlo Allah amad hashachar. if it's not yet done, chayaving atem likros, you are still obligated to say the Shema, and it seems that he doesn't only mean, according to him, who says you have until morning to say Shema, but it sounds like he's saying even according to the Chachamim, who say you have until midnight, even though it's past midnight, you're still obligated to say the Shema. Why? So Rabbi Gamliel explained, V'lo zu bilvad amru, and it's not only this that they said, Ela kol ma she'amru Chachamim ad chatzos. Whenever the Chachamim say that you have until midnight to do something, to do a mitzvah, mitzvah sarat shi'ala amud hashachar. Really, the mitzvah is until dawn. For example, hekter chalam veivarim. For example, the burning of fats and limbs. So you have a carbon. Carbonos are brought during the day. But if the item, the part of the carbon, either the fats or the limbs of a carbon ola, of an elevation offering, a burnt offering, if they, let's say the Rashi says nizrak dam bayam, so the blood was sprinkled. That's another part of the offering, is the blood sprinkled during the daytime, but they didn't yet burn the fats and the limbs on the mizbeach. I think ideally they should have, but let's say they didn't. So they have until chatzos. That's what the Chachamim said. You could do it until midnight. I guess also if it popped off the mizbeach, sometimes something, with heat and stuff, something could pop off the mizbeach, you could put it back on. You should do it before chatzos. But says Rabbi Gamliel, but really really you have until dawn to do it. The mitzvah goes until dawn, but they said to do it by chatzos. Another example of any carbon, any offering that you're supposed to eat by the morning, so mitzvah you really have all the way until the morning to do it, even though the Chachamim say about it in various places to do it by chatzos, to do it by midnight. So im king lama amar chamad chatzos. So why did the Chachamim, why did the sages say to do it by midnight if you really have until morning? It's to distance a person from avera, from sinning. It's to put a buffer. If we tell you have until morning, you might miss it. So we tell you have only until midnight. The Chachamim said you have until midnight. Get it done by midnight. And this is a rabbinic enactment. You have to do it by midnight. And therefore, if you have to do it at midnight, that's a protection. You will for sure have done it by the morning. So all of these things, the Chachamim said, the sages said, even though you technically have all night, they said you should do it by midnight. And says Rabbi Gamliel, the same for Kriyas Shema. For Shema, you really have until morning, but the Chachamim said do it by chatzos, finish it by midnight. And therefore, when his sons came home, and it was past midnight, and they had not yet said Shema, so it's not lost, meaning you lost your chance to fulfill it the way the Chachamim wanted you to fulfill it. To fulfill maybe the rabbinic enactment, the rabbinic decree to do it by chatzos, to do it by midnight. But the mitzvah is still there, the Torah mitzvah is until the morning. So he said, you're chayiv, you're obligated to still say the Shema, because it's not yet morning. Okay. Says the Gemara, Tana heicha kai dekatani me'emasai. Where was this Tana holding that he just said, from when do we say the Shema in the evening? You need to start by saying, first of all, that there's a mitzvah to say Shema, and that there's a mitzvah to say Shema in the evening, and then you can ask me, from when do you say the Shema in the evening? When does that begin? Visu, and furthermore, Maishna detani arvis bereisha, visni jeshachris bereisha. Why does it talk about the evening Shema before the morning Shema? The morning Shema begins our day. So you begin the day, again, we'll see halachically, but in our minds, right, you wake up in the morning, that's the beginning of the day. So the Mishnah should start by talking about the morning Shema before it talks about the evening Shema. Why does it start by asking from when do you recite the evening Shema? And by the way, it will ask about the morning Shema later, but it begins with the evening Shema. Why? So answers the Gemara, Tana akrakai. The Tana was holding in the pasuk. Now the pasuk you don't have to list. The verse you don't have to tell me. Everybody knows the verse. It says, B'shach b'chov kumecha. In Parshas Va'eschanan, In the mitzvah of Shema, it says you should speak of them, of these words, when you're sitting in your house, and when you're going on the way, uvishachbecha, and when you lie down, uvkumecha, and when you get up. And this is what the Mishnah is saying, Zman kriya Shema deshchiva emas. When is the time of Shema of bishachbecha, of when you lie down? When is that time? When is the evening kriya Shema? When is that time? So it was holding by the pasuk, it was holding in the verse, and it said, everybody knows the verse. Now we ask a question on the verse, me'e masai, from when do you say the Shema in the evening? And the answer is, Misha shakohanim nechnasim le'echol b'trumasan. It's from the time that the kohanim enter to eat their truma, which is tzeis hakochavim, when the stars come out. And that would answer also why it begins with the evening Shema. Meaning that answers where the Tana was holding, and it also answers why we begin with the evening Shema, because that's first in the pasuk, b'shachbecha uvkumecha, when you lie down and when you get up. So when you lie down is the evening, that's first in the verse, and therefore the Mishnah started asking about that before it asked about the morning. V'bayisema, and if you want, you can say a different reason why it starts from the evening, because Yalef mibriyasu shel olam. We can learn from the creation of the world, where it says vayi'arev, vayivoker yom echad. It was evening and it was morning one day. That the day begins in the evening. So first comes evening, then comes morning. So it's fitting to begin with the question, when do you recite the evening Shema? Because actually the evening Shema is the first Shema of the day, because the day begins at night. Vayi'arev, it was evening, vayivoker, it was morning. Okay, so ihachi, if that's the case, then we should start talking about the evening before we talk about the morning. Seifa diktani, what about the Mishnah? The end of this Mishnah, which is in the Gemara, it's a different Mishnah, but or maybe even in the Mishnah it's a different Mishnah, but the later Mishnah in the chapter that says, B'shachar mevarich shtayim lefanea ve'achas le'achareh. The Mishnah says that in the morning you have two blessings before the Shema and one afterwards. In the evening at Ma'ariv, the evening service, you have two brachos before Shema and two after. So in the morning there's two before and one after Shema, and in the evening there's two before and two after. So, listening to Arvis Bereisha, it should mention the evening first, because there it has Shacharis first. There it first tells you that you have brachos before and after the morning Shema, and then it tells you have brachos before and after the evening Shema. Why? Didn't we just say that that the evening Shema is the beginning, is the first of the day? So it should talk about the evening Shema before it talks about the morning Shema. Answers the Gemara, Tana pasach ba'arvis. No, the Mishnah, the Tana began with talking about the evening Shema. That's our Mishnah. V'hader tani b'shachris. And then it started to talk about the morning Shema. Asks, Me'e masai, when do we recite the morning Shema? And ad dekai b'shachris parish milei d'shachris. Once it was already talking about the morning Shema, so it said other things about the morning Shema, like the brachos before and after. V'hader parish milei d'arvis. And then it came back to discuss the matters of the evening Shema. So the reason why, when it talks about the brachos, it talks about the morning Shema first, is because it was already talking about the morning Shema. Because we first talked about the evening Shema, when do you say the evening Shema? Then we said, when do you say the morning Shema? And then we say, while we're talking about the morning Shema, here's how the brachos work, and then we come back to talk about the evening Shema after that. Okay, now the Gemara quotes the Mishnah, and in our Gerus it says Amar Mar, although typically Amar Mar would be quoting a Brisa, so it could be that it should be taken out, others say leave it. Fine. In any event, it quotes the Mishnah, Misha shakohanim nechnasim lechol b'trumasan. That the time that you recite the Shema in the evening is at the time when the Kohanim enter to eat their truma. Ask the Gemara Mechti. Let's think about this. Kohanim emas ka'achi truma. When do the Kohanim enter to eat the truma? Mishas teis hakochavim. From when the stars come out. When it's night. So then listening, Mishas teis hakochavim. Why did the Mishnah not just say from the time that the stars come out at nighttime? When do you? From when can you say the Shema? It says from when the Kohanim go to eat their truma, which is what teis hakochavim. when the stars come out. So just say, from when can you eat your truma? From when can you recite Shema? From when the stars come out. That's much simpler, from Tzeis HaKochavim. Says the Gemara, the reason it's said this way is Milsa Agav Orche Kamash Malan. Because by saying it this way, it can teach me something along the way. With regards to Kohanim eating truma. That Kohanim emas ka'achvi b'truma mishas Tzeis HaKochavim. Because we know that the Kohanim eat their truma from Tzeis HaKochavim from nighttime. The Hakamash Malan, and what this teaches us, what our Mishnah teaches us as an aside, is the kapara lo me'akva, that the kapara, the atonement, that accompanies many types of tuma, of purification process. The atonement meaning there's often a carbon that's brought along as part of the purification process. That's not ma'akev. It's not essential, meaning it doesn't hold one back from being able to eat truma. So, going to the mikveh during the day, you still can't eat truma. As soon as the nighttime comes, you can eat truma, even though you didn't yet bring the carbon that's part of the purification process. That's what the Mishnah is teaching us. Kedetanya, like it's Tanya Braisa, it says in the pasuk, with regards to I believe it's about tsaras. It says, "Uva shemesh v'taher, v'achar yochal min hakadashim." It says in Vayikra Chaf Beis. It says actually it might be by a zav. It might be by a man who became tameh through certain kinds of emissions. So, but wherever the context is, it says Uva shemesh v'taher, that the sun will literally come, but set. It means the sun will set, v'taher, and be pure. V'achar yochal min hakadashim. And then he could eat from kadshim, he could eat from truma, kilachmahu, because it's his bread. So the pasuk says that the sun will set and be pure, and then he can eat kadshim, then he can eat truma. Meaning, bia shimsho makvas truma. All that holds him back is the sun setting and being pure, meaning the sky being pure. That's all that holds him back. But the kapara, the carbon, doesn't seem to hold him back, doesn't seem to prevent him. And so our Mishnah teaches that agav orche, along the way, that when can the Kohanim eat truma? From Tzeis HaKochavim, as soon as it's nighttime, even if they didn't bring their carbon yet. Now ask the Gemara, how do we know that we're reading the pasuk correctly? The pasuk says, the sun will set v'taher, and the sky will be purified. Meaning, that's an expression of Tzeis HaKochavim, that it's dark now. There's no sun left. It's completely clean of the sun. It's completely pure. But how do we know that's what the pasuk means? Maybe it means something else. How do we know that Uva Shemesh is the full setting of the sun, and v'taher is that the sun, the sky is pure, is free completely of any sunlight? Top of the next page, Dilma bias orohu. Maybe when it says Uva Shemesh, the sun will set, it means the light will begin to set. It's the beginning of sunset. Sorry, Rashi has different pshat. Rashi says, this is the suggestion. The suggestion is, maybe it means something else. Maybe it means according to Rashi at least, that the sun will rise. The bias oro, meaning the sun will come, the sun will rise, and umay v'taher, tahar gavra. And maybe v'taher means the man has to purify himself, meaning he has to bring his karbanos. Maybe what the pasuk is telling you, that when does he become pure? Not just when the sun sets, but Uva Shemesh, when the sun rises, v'taher, and he brings his karbanos on the next day. Then he becomes pure. I think actually he is talking about a mitzvah, some with tzaras, because Rashi says Bayom Hashmin. We're talking about on the 8th day, so that would be a tumas tzaras, would be 7 days, and on the 7th day, he would go to the mikveh, bring his karbanos, and once the sun sets, he could be pure. But if he didn't bring his karbanos, then uba shemesh, then he needs for the sun to rise so he could bring his karbanos on the 8th day, because you wouldn't bring them at nighttime, they have to be brought during the day, and then he can eat. Maybe that's what the pasuk is saying. And really you do have to bring the karbanos. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba Bar Rav Shila. Rabba Rav Shila explains it can't mean that, because imkein leimakra v'yitaher. If it meant that the person, has to purify themselves by bringing their karbanos, so then it should say v'yitaher, and he will purify. My vitaher, but it says vitaher and it is pure. Tar yoma, it means the day is pure, meaning the sun is completely gone. Kedamri and she, like people say, I arev shimsha ve'at chiyuma. People say the sun is set, it's gone to the west, and at chiyuma, and the day has become purified, has been cleaned out. So that's an expression apparently, but the idea is that the sunlight is completely gone. That's the taher. It's the sky's been purified of any light, and it's just dark now, and that's when the Kohen can eat from his truma, and but it's only once it's completely dark, Teisa Kol Chavim, and by using the example, when can you say the Shema, from when a Kohen enters to eat truma, we understand from there that as soon as it's dark outside, after the Kohen has gone to the mikveh during the day, he is pure insofar as he's now allowed to eat truma, even though he has not yet brought the karbanos that may be part of his purification process. Okay, we'll resume from here. Mir Hashem next time.